Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home RockStar podcast. Excited for today's episode. We're talking to the co-founder of Inboxing Engine, and what he does is he helps businesses to scale their revenue through email marketing. So I'm excited to be rocking out with Cole Vandee. Hey, Cole, you ready to rock?
I am, man. I am. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. We always start off on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
Yeah, I think I have lots over the years that are wins. I think we find a lot of wins. But more recently for me, really been finding the confidence in doing business kind of on my own. So for many years, I had a business partner in my email marketing agency. We went by a different name. It was great. I learned a lot from business. He was a great mentor. He's still a great friend of mine. But I just hit that point where it was like I was ready to kind of go on my own. And so I've been kind of charting my own path more recently. And it's been a big win and a big success for myself. And it's been really exciting to kind of experience that, on my own. So.
So what's the difference between running it as a partnership and running it as a solopreneur? How's that different for you?
I truthfully like kind of looking back, the only real difference is like in the non-tangibles and on paper, right? So when I had brought my business partner on, he was just acted kind of as an advisor, didn't really operate in the business, had his own businesses going on. He was originally a client, and then I brought him on as a partner just because he had a lot more business experience. So I think for me, the biggest difference between the two, based on that scenario, is really that I don't have like this thought lingering in the back of my head of like, why does this person have equity in like my company when they're not like in the trenches with me working on it? And I kind of outgrew like that needing of the advisor kind of stage of the business itself. So.
So would you recommend it to somebody else though, like to get started that way?
I, that's a great question. I think the overarching question is, should I have a business partner? And I think the answer is, why would you have a business partner? And if you're really clear on that, then it makes a lot of sense. I have friends of mine that have had business partners for many years,
Mhm.
and it works extremely well. Like I have friends that they've started and launched dozens of businesses with their business partner over decades, and they just work really, really, really well together. And it's because they're incredibly clear about, this is my thing, that's your thing, let's do
Yeah.
this thing together, instead of, I'm scared to do this on my own, let me bring someone else in, or I'm not good enough to do that thing, let me bring someone else in. It's just like getting really strategic about why. And that's something that I just didn't do in the beginning. So that's why I chose to kind of go my own path. And I'm sure, over the next decade or two, I'll find more business partners for more things where I'll think a little more strategically about, why am I bringing someone in, and are they helping move this mission forward?
Yeah. And you know what? I think that what you said is actually valid though, because if you don't have the confidence to do it on your own, then that is the why you're bringing in a business partner, right? Because it's
Yeah.
just being clear on that. Because would you have done it if that business partner wasn't there?
Yeah. I mean, I've run businesses in the past. I think it was more of just lack of confidence in myself, and I wasn't going to find that in bringing anyone else on. I easily could have just, went to a mastermind or an event and learned just as, similar stuff that I had learned throughout that process of working with him. But I allowed it to kind of hold me back from kind of building the business. And so a lot of the success that could have been had years ago was delayed as a result of going slow, being timid, relying on someone that's not in the business to kind of guide and shape the business. It just didn't make the most sense.
You know. All right. So then along the path, sometimes there's things that don't go as planned. I call those the bad notes. I'm wondering, can you share something that you learned from and that we can learn from as well?
Yeah, it flows really well into what I just shared, but this would have been 7 years ago now. I launched my first like copywriting agency, and copywriting is just writing words for advertising, basically.
Yeah.
And so I launched this agency, had a big name, had a lot of momentum going, and I had a lot of people wanting to pay me to write. And so with zero experience, having no idea what I was doing and doing it all on my own. I hired a massive sales team to help facilitate all the deals. So I had like 20 or 30 salespeople across three or four continents, with no manager. And then I had writers in like 20 or 25 different countries that were writing. And this all happened in a matter of maybe 90 days. And so I scaled it incredibly fast, had no idea where anybody's projects were, had no idea if things were getting done, had no idea if things were getting delivered. I had no idea if salespeople were just keeping money for themselves. I had no idea what was going on. And so it got to the point where people were like, hey, like I paid for something and I didn't get it. And hey, like your team said that this would get done and it, I haven't gotten it. And it just became like this big, massive burden of, oh, I have no idea what's going on. My name is the only name that's on any of this. And I have no idea what's happening. So I refunded everybody. So I sent out like $300,000 in refunds. I fired everyone I every writer, every salesperson, let all of them go, had to pay them all out on everything that they had put down as this is the work I had done. And then I worked for free for the next 12 months to finish fulfilling on everything that we had taken money for, had promised. People were expecting things. And so I got a job and worked full time in a job. And then in the morning and at night and during the job and everything else, like I'm writing and just getting all this stuff done that I didn't get to see a dollar for. My biggest thing was the lesson I learned was I scaled very fast with no plan and then didn't put any sort of infrastructure in place to make sure that the ship would stay afloat. And then ended up just shouldering it all. And so the lesson on the back end of that for me was like, no matter what you do, you'll always find a way to get through it and you'll survive it. It's just like finding a middle ground between massive scale very quickly and strategic scale that makes sense and can actually be sustained.
That is a big one.
It was,
Wow.
yeah, it was a tough one. There's
Yeah.
many days where getting out of bed was the hardest thing in the world to do.
Yeah.
I remember that for sure. So,
So, so what do you think was in your head? Like, if we could like go back to right before you made all these decisions to scale that quickly, what do you think was the mindset? Like, why do you think you made that mistake?
oh, it was pure ego. I was 7 years ago, I was 23, 22. I grew up fairly poor in the Midwest. I mean, I was making 1,500 bucks a month. I eventually got into sales and started making okay money. Moved to California and was like gung ho. No one was going to tell me anything. I slept on a friend's couch. I made no money. I didn't have a job. I had no money in my bank account because I spent everything. And I was like, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to figure this thing out. And the moment that I got just a small taste of momentum in building my business, I was just like all in, like, all right, I'll do everything. And I said no to nobody. If someone wanted me to write for patio furniture, we did it. If we were writing for fitness coaches and women's coaching and anything that you could, anyone that was willing to give us money for any amount of thing and any amount of price, it didn't matter. Like we just said yes to everything and collected every dollar that we could. So it was really the ego and the arrogance of like, yeah, we're the best and we'll do everything. And that definitely was a very great recipe for failure.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, there's so many lessons in there. I didn't even know where to start. But but
There
that's
are,
a
there are.
but that's I mean it's funny that you say that because I think most people when they think of failure it's the exact opposite. They're thinking about I can't get sales in the door, right? They think
That's yeah,
but there is a such thing as too much too fast, right? And
oh,
that's something that I don't think
absolutely.
a lot of people quite think about, you know?
Absolutely. The biggest, my ex-business partner that we just left with, he's a good friend of mine, and I've been with him for, God, I've been teaching with his community and working with him for years now, 7 or 8 years. And when he first launched the first edition of that company, he went from zero to $1 million a month in like 2 or 3 months. And everyone's like, dude, that's amazing. Besides the guys that have already done it. And they're all like, are you okay? Like, do you need someone to like come in and help out? Do you need an operations manager? Like, do you have a therapist? And it's like unless you've been through that process, you have no idea how overwhelming it is. It's kind of like winning the lottery every single day, and then you owe people money on that lottery money every single day, and problems come with that lottery ticket every single day.
Wow,
So,
yeah, that's a really great way to look at it too. And I mean, you do like, especially if you're in a great niche where there is business coming in, like you'll have friends that don't know what they're talking about, obviously, that will kind of go like, why don't you expand? You could grow so much faster. You could do this, you could do that. And all these shiny objects start to get, and it is really super tempting to just go, yeah, sure, why don't I just do that? But there is a danger that comes on the other side of that, as you say, right?
yeah, there's definitely what I've found now, if there's like, because I know there's like a lot happening in this what I've shared, but I think the golden thing to take out of this is like be very focused and intentional about what you do, and then just do a lot of that thing and
Yeah.
do it well. And that will solve a lot of the problems. Me now knowing what I've already been through and how to move through that in the future. It's very much pick one problem, solve one problem, do it very well, and do it for a select group of people and just do a lot of that thing. And then get people under you that'll eventually help take some of the administration stuff off of your plate and help you kind of keep organized and more of the mundane stuff that you shouldn't really be using brain space for, anyways.
Right on. So let's talk a little bit about practicing and, honing your craft, getting good at what you do, staying good at what you do. What is your philosophy on that, I guess?
Uh, it's kind of like if you took David Goggins and then turned him into like a poet and kind of blended those two worlds. So for me, like I was, when I first got started in sales, I was 18, 19 years old. Zero experience, zero idea what I was doing, zero training from the company that I had worked for. I just practiced every single day, like 20 hours a day. Like if I wasn't actively with a customer, I was practicing, I was studying, I was taking notes, I was watching videos. And I did this for years. And then I got out of sales and decided I wanted to do marketing. So I was practicing marketing every single day. And then I got into copywriting. I wrote my first year, I remember, is actually the memories came up on Facebook. I was writing 100 to 200,000 words a week, which is much more than a Harry Potter book every single week. And I did that for 18 months in a row. And so for me, I got 10,000 hours worth of training under my belt for copywriting in just like a couple of years. And so practice is what separates the greats from the average and what makes business significantly easier, especially if you're a freelancer of some sort or if you're selling some sort of skill as a service in some way. Um, Being great at it is a massive advantage because most people just aren't willing to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. They sort of see the icing at the end of it and go, oh, yeah, I want that. But, in reality, it's like, okay, well, what are you willing to do to get that, right?
Yeah. What prices are you willing to pay in order to have the life you say you want? And most people see that price tag and decide to put it back and go, maybe not for me.
Yeah, yeah. But I think like, actually, what do you think are the components that you need in order to, I don't know, have the mindset to do that work?
There's Damon John, I think, summed it up pretty well in The Power of Broke, which was his book about his journey. And I just shared actually a long blog post about this not too long ago. Um, but there, and Chris Williamson actually says this the best. So let me put it the way he puts it. If you have to travel a half a mile, you'll probably walk. And if you have to travel 2 miles, you'll probably drive. Which means that if the destination is further and harder, you are more willing to apply more resources to make it happen, right? It will take you longer to walk a half a mile than it would for you to drive 2 miles, unless you live in like downtown Los Angeles or Manhattan, right? Like those are two different those are different worlds. But for the most part, in most places, right, to travel 2 miles, it's significantly faster for you to drive that and to travel that 2 miles than it would be for you to walk a half a mile. And so when we put that into perspective for our own lives, if your life is kind of cushy and comfortable and you're content, it's going to be really hard to be motivated to like work harder and to succumb to the, boringness and the aloneness of which it is to study and to practice and to hone your craft and to put yourself out there and get rejected. But when your back's against the wall, like for me, I was poor and I moved out to California and we had six people living in a three-bedroom apartment. We had people laying on couches. We had people sleeping in dining rooms. Like I was making no money. Like I had no, I was either going to be homeless or I was going to be successful. There was no like middle ground for me. And part of that came from this like all or nothing attitude. Like I was either going to be homeless or successful. There was no like middle class for me.
Mm.
And so that was kind of the mindset that I put myself in and kind of stayed in. And it was incredibly powerful for my growth and my ability to work long days when it would have been easier to watch Netflix. But I just stayed uncomfortable and just kept pushing forward.
Oh, super deep. It's very good though. And I think you're right. I think that there's a lot of disadvantage to being comfortable, right? And to being in that
Yeah.
place where there's everything's just fine, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but it's not extraordinary, right? And in order for you to get to that extraordinary level in anything you do, I mean, music is one of them too. It is going to take a lot of work, and for you to
Absolutely.
get up and do that work every day, with the consistency that you need to do, that 10,000 hours that you're talking about, it's got to be some pretty deep whys, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's comfort is incredibly challenging. And I also want to be really clear, not everyone is built for like not everyone's willing to pay the price for more. And that's
Yeah,
okay. There's nothing absolutely zero things wrong with not wanting more. It's for like the people like me, probably like you as well, where it's like we know more is available. We know that more is for us. And we know that we're willing to pay the prices in order to have it. And
yeah,
so because we know what that price is, we're willing to pay it. And it's because for me personally, I just compare the price of what I have to pay to get more out of my life versus the price I would have to pay to live my life in comfort. And for me, at the end of my life's journey, if a movie played of what could have been if I would have just applied myself, and I had to live this average life all the way up to that moment. And I get to watch this amazing movie of all the things I could have done, all the countries I could have traveled to, all the food I could have ate, all the people I could have met, all the lives I could have impacted. I had to sit there and watch that movie knowing I could have lived that life. For me, that would be the worst moment of anything. That's worst case scenario. And so for me, I'd rather pay the price now, even if I'd never end up finding what my full potential is.
well, cool. I can tell you're a good writer. You're just a thinker. Wow, that's awesome. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about the band and about the people that you have around you. So, I mean, hey, you've mentioned that you've gotten big teams, you've let them all go. Like, first of all, I guess, what's the people that you have around you right now in your band?
Yeah, my significant other, so my girl, she is awesome.
Mm.
We've been together for a couple of years now, and uh, personally at home is like a huge rock for me. She is the exact opposite of how I operate. I lead with let's go, 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 and she leads very much from the heart and emotion, empathy, which are things that I definitely lack and I'm working on. But she finds a way to keep me grounded, which is amazing. And having someone like that in your life, whether it's a significant other or a friend or a mentor, incredibly powerful. Definitely do not overlook that. And then the next is the first hire anyone I think, should have, no matter what you do, you should have some sort of a personal assistant or executive assistant. Um, they just do the things like I hate running my own calendar. It's not fun. And so I have like my executive assistant runs my calendars. And so he's included in email chains and everything else and he just runs my calendar. He makes sure that my meetings are spaced out and they make it to the calendar. Or if I have a conflict, he reaches out and handles it because I just don't want to do that stuff. Um, but anyone that can just kind of take that low dollar task and do it for you, let them do it. And the biggest challenge that I had in the very beginning was thinking that no one could do it as good as I could.
Mm, mm,
And which is not true. There's not a single thing that I can do better than a $9 an hour VA from the Philippines in any part of my business. And I generate hundreds of millions of dollars for my clients. But I can plug VAs, virtual assistants from the Philippines at $9 an hour. And I can plug them in and they can follow a step-by-step process and they can produce a similar result for me. And so I've kind of checked out of the I'm better than everyone else, so I have to do it phase of my business and my life. And I've started to bring other people in to really help out with that.
wow. So, and do you find that, because I think a lot of people struggle to do that. I think that that's probably a pretty natural thing for especially entrepreneurs. But then I do want to dig in a little bit to the whole to hiring abroad. So do you feel like it's harder to trust people from abroad? Like how did you get through that?
Uh, you know, I think hiring anyone is challenging. And at the end of the day, all you can do is trust people to be people.
Mm,
Right. And so hiring someone from abroad, hiring someone from the States, truthfully, if I'm paying minimum wage in the States, I'm paying what, $14 an hour or $15 an hour. That's a minimum wage worker. And so, at $15 an hour, they probably can't afford their own place unless they live somewhere in the Midwest. They're probably living with their parents or in subsidized housing or with a bunch of roommates or whatever it may be. I'm not knocking $15 an hour. I used to have a job at $8 an hour. I'm just kind of laying out kind of
you do.
my perception of this, right? So I'm less likely to trust a random person in America that grew up on American values, basically post 90s, um, that is chasing a dollar, trying to get ahead. They're stuck in this rut. They see the American dream, the influencers, the TikTokers, and everything else versus someone that's born in a third world country, for example, where they're raised on values, culture, some sort of system of ethics and moral and everything else. Like I'm actually more likely to trust
Hmm.
someone out of the country just because of the cultural differences. They're way more likely to follow through with what they say they're going to do and do the things that they say they're going to do versus what I found in American society, just because the ones that follow through and do the things they say they're going to do and all that fun stuff, they go on to make $30 an hour, $40 an hour.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just, in the beginning, I'm just not prepared to pay that kind of money for an American worker. So I'd rather find someone overseas.
Wow, that's great insight, Cole. And also, I think $9 an hour is a pretty good salary for the Philippines,
It's
isn't
really
it?
good. Yeah. I mean, you can find workers for 4 and 5, maybe even $6 an hour that are pretty good. I find ones I pay them a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that works really well for me.
Well, you're creating a massive win-win, right? I mean, like what we mentioned earlier, I mean, not everybody is has that huge desire to build a big business. Some people really do want that comfort and they want that regular job. And that's
Yep.
awesome. We need we need them both, right? So, if you
Absolutely.
could
Yeah.
find somebody who's making a great wage, is providing for their family and is very happy doing what they're doing, then that's a win-win for both of you. You're getting what you want, they're getting what they want, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And they get to do it on their time too, which is also really nice. I don't
Hmm.
demand any of my people work at a certain time of the day. I just need stuff done. And so do it however you need to get it done. It's up to you. I'm not going to dictate how you do your job. Just expect you to do it. That tends to work really well for people.
That's awesome. Right on. Let's talk a little bit about getting fans. And I mean, I think that this conversation just keeps changing, over the years because, with social media and the way that we live now and everybody's connected, you're connected all around the world. Hey, you've got people working in the Philippines for you, right? I mean, that's just crazy that you can reach so many people. But just because that audience is there, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're fans of yours. So I'm
Sure.
wondering, how do you get them to be like a fan of yours rather than just being part of the audience?
I think I mean I did a stint in the music business for a while as well. So like I have like literal experience in getting fans for artists. And the thing that worked there was just being real and actually connecting with them. And so many times, especially in the TikTok world and the Instagram world that we live in, or social media world that we live in, regardless of what happens to be the new app, uh, the idea is that they want to create distance between them and their fans to show that they're on a different level, or they're bigger, or they're better, or they're famous, or they're whatever, right? Whatever it happens to be for them. And that might work for a few people. But if you go back to like the early days of some of these big influencers that are out there when they only had 1,000 or 2,000 followers, you can see them engaging with their people,
Yeah.
right? And so, as an entrepreneur, or you're building a personal brand or whatever it may be, the absolute hardest thing in the world to do is to share your actual journey of where you're at. For me, I was very fortunate as a writer, right? I wanted to be a copywriter, so I just wrote a lot. So I started a blog. This would have been 2015 or 2016. Started a blog and just wrote every single day about anything, whatever came to mind, and published it. And that's how I kind of created my first fans, if you will. And people started to go, "Oh, Cole can write. Cole writes well. Cole has some good ideas. Cole this, Cole that." And it wasn't like I invented new stuff. It was just like sharing. And so through that, like authentic sharing, sharing consistently, and sharing from a place of true authenticity, I was able to build a lot of fans. And then I've just stayed consistent with that over the years of writing, nowadays making videos actually works a lot better. It's why I'm doing these, podcasts and stuff like that. Um, is just sharing more of like your opinions, what you believe in, what you're willing to stand for, what you disagree with, and then actually helping people along the way tends to be a great recipe for success.
That's awesome. And I feel like the playing field is so much more level now than it ever was. Because, like you said, I mean, you were just able to publish stuff, just because you can, right?
Yeah,
Whereas, 40, 50 years ago, that's not really the case. There's no such thing as that. Like you had to get
right.
somebody to publish you. And now, like you say, as long as I think now it's like the hard work actually can pay off. Whereas
Yeah,
before it
absolutely.
was like the connections that you needed in order for you to even get the chance to put the hard work in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They say with podcast, the average podcast show today never makes it past like 5 or 6 episodes.
Well,
Right. And
well,
so when you see shows that are 50 episodes in, 100 episodes in, 200 episodes in, even if they don't have 10,000 reviews, for example, they're still getting some sort of downloads. They're building some sort of fan base and people are listening. And it's, if you put 100 people in your bedroom today, like that's a lot of people. And we just get so skewed by like seeing, 100,000 followers or a million followers. Like you have no idea, like if you put 1 million people in one space, like you would never be able to talk to all of them, and two, it would be absolutely chaos. Like it just it wouldn't be what you think it would be. I don't remember how many people were at Martin Luther King's I Had a Dream speech, at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, but I don't believe it was 1 million people. I think it was about half of that. And so if
wow.
that man that had that much impact on history only needed a couple of 100,000 people to share his message, you don't need millions of people to share your message.
Yeah, I think, and I think that's just it, is that we sort of have this skewed view of what a YouTube video should get in terms of views, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy to think.
But like even with small numbers coming in, or relatively small numbers compared to that, even for me, I still do have people in my local area that are like, oh, I watched your podcast the other day. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's good to hear. So you people are listening, even if those numbers
Mhm.
are quite small. And like you say, you don't need giant numbers in order to get. I suppose it depends on what your goals are. Hey, if you've got huge, huge goals, that's great, right? But I mean, if you're running if you're self-employed, if you've got a small business, then I mean, it's all relative, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have my girl's family, they own a brick and mortar store in LA, and they sell high-end plates, dinner plates, tableware, kitchenware, stuff like that. And for I think we spent about $800 on a video ad on Instagram, um, just in the local area. Did a lot of hyper targeting and stuff like that, all that fun stuff. And they're getting text and messages like, "We saw your video. This was amazing. We came in because of your video." And like just in like the hyper local area to where that store is became kind of famous, right? Like people are seeing like we're getting like, "Hey, my wife saw that video," or "My kids saw that," it for less than $1,000. We
Yeah.
just get so hung up on like we need millions of people to do this, or we need X or Y or Z. Like you just need the right people to see your stuff. And you just need to put yourself out there, and people will definitely be like, "Hey, like you've been consistent. I've been seeing you," or "I heard
Mm.
about that," or "I saw that." Even if they're not commenting, even if they're not liking, even if they're not sharing, people are still watching and they care. So
Yeah, and that consistency, it does just build trust, basically. I mean, they say, "Wow, you've been doing this for a little while." That's pretty impressive. And if they're looking at spending some money and they've got a couple different options, and they see one that's been consistent and putting in the hard work, and they see one that hasn't, well, what are they going to go with, right? I mean, what would you go
yeah,
with? You know?
absolutely. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
was just looking for someone to help with like bookkeeping and stuff like that in the local area. Pull up it on Google, and the one that's like 1+ year in business, 2+ year, and I find the one that's 35+ year in business. I'm like, I'm gonna hit them up first. That like if you're in business that long, you either have to be doing something really right or you have to be paying a lot of people off to be quiet. Either way is a win for me. So
It's a good point. Right on. So it's time for your guest solo. Tell me what's exciting in your business right now, Cole.
yeah, so like you mentioned, I'm the owner of inboxingengine.com. So we basically do email marketing for anyone that's doing 3 million a year or more in revenue. Coaches, consultants, course creators, stuff like that. And I think the fun part in the world that we live in today, it's the second quarter of 2025, and uh, as we're recording this, and I'm really looking at how can I take everything that I have in my brain, how can I build that into some sort of AI tool so that
Mm,
anyone can have access to it. Because right now our clients are paying us 10, 20, 30,000 a month. Sometimes on certain months we'll make significantly more than that with them depending on what we're doing. And that's just not accessible for most companies. Like 96 or 97% of companies never break 1 million a year. Most of them never break $100,000 a year. And so they're left with this complex like dilemma of like, how do I scale my business? How do I make more money? And then there's guys like me out there that like we get paid more than they make in an entire year in their business, and we're like, that's how much we get paid. So it's hard to get really good help. So trying to break down what we do in email, put it in an algorithm, which we already have most of the data set kind of laid out, and then building an entire software basically around this to be able to plug into anyone's business for an extremely low price, to be able to help them make email decisions, write their emails, write their subject lines, analyze the data, uh, curate promotions, like all the stuff that we do for our high-end clients that are crushing it. Be able to install that into any business at any level, selling any product. So that's what's really exciting. When that gets released, when that rolls out, I have no idea, as it is definitely a large project, but we are definitely working on it for 2025 and really excited to see what comes of that.
oh, that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that for sure. I'm wondering, so now what's the process that someone would go through if they wanted to start working with you?
Yeah, so first, like if you're doing 3 million a year or more, we're definitely looking for companies that want to scale. So, uh, really interesting kind of phenomenon I've noticed with entrepreneurs, but they hit a revenue point and they just want to stay there. And so hiring us, we don't do well with sustaining. We only do really well with scale. So if you're 3 million or more and you're scaling to the next milestone, 3 to 10 million, 10 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 to 100 are typically the milestones there. Yeah, you'd fill out a form. I'd analyze all of that. If I think you're a good fit, that we could actually help you based on the information you provide, we'll jump on a call. I'll just ask some clarifying questions. If you're going to spend 100 grand a year with me, you're probably going to ask me some clarifying questions to make
Yeah.
sure I can do what I'm going to do, right? And then if all is a good fit, we get started and basically we dive in, we clean up the list, we fix all the inboxing and deliverability right out of the gate. We set up a cadence as far as how we're going to nurture the list, how we're going to kind of transition this list into a actual breathable asset that we can pull multiple six figures, even seven figures a month out of it for you, and then just kind of build that plan in and get that thing going. So yeah, you just visit inboxingengine.com. There should be like a book a demo or a book a call button somewhere on that page, and grab that and fill out the times and yeah, see if it's a good fit.
Nice. Are there specific industries that you work with mainly, or just anybody who's at that revenue point?
Yeah, I mean, most people are at that revenue point. Mostly coaches and consultants, course creators of any kind. You know, if you have a dating offer, we're happy to help. If you have supplements like protein powders or liver pills or whatever it ends up happening to be, anything that's not in the adult space, happy to work with that.
Hmm.
We've even worked with, D2C type, brands that are big brands. So some pet companies that service the pet industry and things of that sort. So yeah, we're not super picky. We definitely prefer that you're running some sort of paid traffic. If you're a big company doing it, with millions and millions of followers and you've never spent a dollar on advertising, our system probably isn't going to work the best for you. We definitely prefer anyone running like direct response type marketing in their business as a core customer acquisition model.
Right on. Okay, so how do we find out more then?
You can follow me on social media, at Cole Vandee, Vandee, on any social, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm not on TikTok, so that's probably a detractor in today's society, but I don't use it and I don't post on it. But I still have a handle over there if you want to follow me there and on LinkedIn as well. Cole Vandee on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for rocking it with me today, Cole. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I had a bunch of fun as well.
I do have one more question, though. It's probably the hardest one. Who's your favorite rock star?
Ooh, that is a great question, man. This one's gonna be tied. The first name that popped into my head was Kid Rock, and I'll
Oh, okay.
explain why. There's a lot of reasons why that's probably not the best answer from a PR perspective, but I can just remember as a kid, like my parents listened to Kid Rock, everything else. I was born in the early '90s, and so I remembered like as a kid, just in the back seat of the car, and just Kid Rock is playing, right? And so those are some like really great memories for me as a kid. Probably not the best music to listen to as like a 7-year-old or a 6-year-old, but whatever. Um, but yeah, it was a bunch of fun. So I would say them. I would say more modern day, like looking at all of it. I would say Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh,
And I'll preface that with I've been following him since like 2010, I think. Yeah, like 14, 15 years I've been with him on his journey, watching his YouTube content when he used to get like 800 views on a video kind of thing. And so watching his career kind of progress and for him to grow into who he is today and everything else has been really, really exciting, really awesome. I love his story and his journey as well. So it's been cool to watch.
love that. Thank you so much, Cole. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it, man.
Cool. And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment, but also go to workathomerockstar.com for more information. And we'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.